What's up? What's up? What's up? Of course, it's me, your boy Richie Rich at Consumer Appliance Report. Man, you already know we review appliances. Today, we're going to take you into the repair world to show you guys how to unclog your refrigerator drain. If you're having issues where your refrigerator is leaking water, you can actually see it underneath the fresh food section. When you pull out the drawers, you're cleaning up water every couple days. This could be one of the issues that you have, is if you have a clogged drain on your refrigerator. All right, so let's talk about it. Let's look at it. Let's get into it. All right, so you can see this picture right here. You can see buildup of the whole bunch of ice. Typically, all this sits underneath either the shelf. It could also be inside your freezer. When you try to open the door, it's difficult for you to open the door. You got to clean up water all the time. So this sits underneath there, builds up with a lot of ice. Turn into water, build up with ice, and it freezes over, and that's where you get this issue. All right, so I'm just walk you through it so that you actually see it as we go through this video right here. Typically, you go to the side panel. So there's a panel on the left and a panel on the right. You unscrew both of those, take that panel out. So it's also ice that could be built up underneath here as well. So you want to take heat that. We do have a steamer. All right, so this is one of the items that we suggest that you use. You can use this steamer. You can buy it at Amazon. I bought one. It's about $100 and something for this, because it's a bigger tank. You can put more water in it, and it's a lot better than using a hair dryer. You can use that, or trying to dig into the appliance with a screwdriver or flathead. You just don't really want to do that, because you can puncture the appliance. All right, so if you can afford to get a steamer, you can probably get a cheap one for 30 bucks, and you can use that as well. All right, so let's rock. So that's my steamer there. Got some cloth. So this is the evaporator coil. This is what freezes over inside of the refrigerator. This one is inside the refrigerator, or the fresh food section. It's considered the same exact thing. You do have an evaporator inside of the freezer. So this means this is dual vap. So there's one in the refrigerator, one in the freezer. So it's called a dual evaporator system. All right, so you also have your fan here as well. This is your evaporator fan that circulates the air. All right, so let's get into this video. All right, so you can see right there me playing with the water, right? That's the hole. So when that hole gets clogged up with water, again, your refrigerator most of the time is pushed back to the wall. Sometimes is encased in a cabinet, right? So the lint from back there builds up. If you have any pets, it builds up back there as well. So your drain gets clogged up, and over time, when it gets clogged up, the water constantly keeps building up. Then it gets up to the top, and it freezes over because it is inside of an evaporator system, so it gets cold, right? So it freezes up, the water comes out like a ski, and then builds up over time. Hard for you to open the door. Starts to leak all the time, maybe every couple days, and you got to keep wiping it up constantly all the time. So that drain needs to be unclogged. All right, so again, I normally use the steamer to steam everything up. You can see me doing that right then and there, because that's helpful. It's a lot easier to steam it rather than to dig at it. All right, so you can use the steamer and stick it in the hole. That's exactly what I do most of the time. The heat from the steamer forces the water through, forces all the buildup through, and it goes all the way into a drip pan at the bottom of the refrigerator. In this case, it was not working. It's like one of those days where you go to work and things are just not working properly. That this does happen where it does not work. You can try it multiple times. You can fill up the tank maybe once or twice. You want to be careful with doing that, because remember, if the water's not going out, it's building up, and then you're going to see the issue that I have later on. All right, so let's rock with it. So we're letting you see how we do that, steam it out as much as we can. So we had to go in the back because it was not working. All right, so there's several screws in the back that you want to take off the back panel. It's not a difficult thing to do, to take off the back panel. I don't need to show you how to do that. If you're mechanically inclined, you should be able to take off a back panel. One, you can see two different drains here. One, the drain on the left, my left, it's the actual freezer drain. The one on the right is the refrigerator drain. All right, so you can see all the compressors and everything in the back. You have your drip pan here as well. So I'm gonna let the video rock and roll so you can actually see that where it gets clogged up over time. You can see that it's dripping periodically, right? So you do have one on the refrigerator side and one on the freezer side. The one on the freezer side is fine. So it's dripping water. That means it's clogged up. And like I said, you got to be careful. The water is also hot from me steaming it. You can see all the water's coming out there as well, because I used a lot of water to force it down and it wasn't coming out. All right, so that water is built up. So eventually, this is what it looks like. So that's your drain, right? That's a part of the drain housing. So it's a part of the drain. So you want to clean it out, right? You can see that stuff build up in it. The water gets built up, it gets stagnant and freezes over and it starts to leak. All right, so we cleaned it out, fresh and new. Your hand's gonna get a little bit dirty, man, when you're doing this type of work, man. So that's a part of it. So you want to clean it out properly as well. And then you want to stick it right back into where the housing is to cover it, because that protects it, because you don't want too much air to go inside of the refrigerator coming through there, because it's going to create moisture. It's going to over freeze, and it's going to affect the actual temperature of the refrigerator, because again, it is a drain. All right, so you do want to be careful with that, how big the hole is, and you want to make sure this is on there properly. All right, so we just secured it back in there. It's not a difficult thing to do. All right, again, when you look at it, just like your refrigerator, the water drips into a pan. Your car, it drips on the floor. I always explain that to all my customers. All right, so it drips into the pan. The condenser, you already know, evaporates the water. The circulation of the condenser fan and the heat from the compressor evaporates the water. It's not a lot of water in there, but if you see it, let me go back a little bit. You might want to clean it up from time to time. All right, if there's enough water in there because you added that to it, then you want to vacuum that out. You want to clean that out, because you don't want it to overflow and then it's going to leak and damage your customer's property. All right, so you want to be careful with that. So let us rock. So this is like the beginning portion of it. So this is the part that I actually missed. I probably could have put this in the front of the video, right? But this is the part that we missed, so we could have just let this rock. All right, so let's get into that. Put all the screws in. It's about 4 or 5 screws that goes in there. All right, so you want to secure that tightly as much as you can on both sides, right? So you want to do that. It's not a difficult thing to do, but you do want to be careful, because even though you remove those screws, you don't want to pull on the cover too much, because you can actually damage the evaporator. You can puncture it and put a hole in it. That's the worst thing you can do. You don't want that to happen. All right, so let's let that rock. All right, so just adding that stuff to it. Removing those screws is not a difficult thing to do. Put the cover back on, snap it on. Outside of that, man, putting everything back, you can see that. You know, we missed most of the stuff by putting it in, but the most important thing is making sure that you unclog that drain. Take care of what you need to take care of. Once that drain is unclogged, then you're back to normal. Refrigerator is good to go. Put it back together. Best instruction I can tell you before you even do all this: make sure you take pictures with your smartphone, so you know exactly how everything else goes back into the actual refrigerator. But you already know I'm your boy Richie Rich at Consumer Power Support. You help me, I help you. We both help each other. Till next time, I'm out of here. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. I'm out. Peace. Yeah.